What's up, world? My name is Sarah and welcome back to another episode of whatever it is that we're doing here. Just blank. What do I say? Thrift stores might have it. Even with kids, that could be a nice thing. Prolong the burn of the candle. I'm not even sure what they're called. That we have thrifted. We, as in I have thrifted. But some of these were thrifted with you, so we thrifted these. You could use an old for the wax to harden. It might not gift project, and while the wax is melting on the stove, when it's ready to go, a thicker wick. Let's make a mix. You know what? Old teacups, antique-y little jars, or just for yourself, on the stick through the hole. And I have some hot boiling water, harden obviously. In today's video, I'm gonna show you a super easy do-it-yourself gift project. Obviously you can make these for yourself. We are making candles in little jars that we have thrifted. We, as in I have thrifted. But some of these were thrifted with you, so we thrifted these. Now, you could use any jar that can sustain a little bit of heat, like old teacups, antique-y little jars. I have found a bunch of different sizes and shapes and textures and colors that I'm going to use today. And like I said, these are amazing gifts that are super simple to do, even with kids, although you want to be careful because hot wax kids, you know what I mean. Okay, aside from clean jars, these have been washed, you will need the wax. I have both stearin and paraffin. What we're gonna do is it's gonna be about 90% paraffin and 10% stearin. The stearin is going to prolong the burn of the candle. It's slower burning wax, whereas the paraffin is a softer wax, and we want that to be the majority of our candle. We also have the wick, so a string that has been pre-waxed specifically for this project. Now, these are optional. These are little candle making, I'm not even sure what they're called, but we will attach the wick to it and it's going to go into the bottom of our candle. Now, if you don't have something like this, you can even use old washers. So these are from my toolkit. You could use an old button, maybe not plastic. And if you don't have anything, you can just tie a big knot and have that as the bottom of your candle. Now, another thing that we're going to use is any type of stick. You can use something from a popsicle. These I think are for barbecue. This is going to be used for the wick to stand still, for the wax to harden. I'll show you as we go along. Now, like I mentioned, the ratio of the wax is paraffin 90% and stearin 10%. I'm gonna slightly eyeball it, and the amount for one candle is usually 2 to 1. So 2 dry cups is going to be 1 full cup or container of your candle, because the wax obviously melts and then that consistency is smaller. So a good rule of thumb to keep in mind when you're making candles. Now, I have 5 different jars in front of me. Some are bigger, some are smaller. And if you have a bigger jar, this is still relatively small, but let's say a tiny bit bigger than this, you might want to use a thicker wick or even 2 wicks side by side, not too close so they catch fire, but for the candle to burn evenly, because it might be hard for one little wick to burn a bigger candle. The way I'm going to measure the wax for these is I'm going to do 2 cups of each of the jars that I have of the paraffin. Then I'm going to eyeball the stearin 10% to the paraffin mix, mix them, the dry consistency together, and I have some hot boiling water on the stove where we're going to set the wax to slowly melt. And when it comes to a liquidy consistency, we're going to remove it from the heat, let it cool off just a little bit, because if you put the hot wax into the container you want your candle to be, it might not harden evenly. And we want it to kind of just slowly harden and become a beautiful texture of our candle. And while the wax is melting on the stove, we are going to do the wick work beforehand so it's ready for us to pour the liquid when it's ready to go. Now, the consistencies of the waxes are a little different. Paraffin is a plastic beady looking consistency, whereas stearin is a more coconut flaky consistency. That's how you can tell if you don't know which is which. All right, let's make our mix. You know what? Looks like we're gonna need a bigger boat. Now, while I stir these two waxes together, I do want to mention that wax and the wick string I get from my local craft store. Some thrift stores might have it, but you can also check Amazon and online stores for supplies for making candles, and it's relatively affordable. So this is a great idea for holiday presents, housewarming gifts, or just for yourself. And if you have a jar that you really like that already had a candle that's burnt down, you can make a new batch and use the container again. All right, let's put this on the heat. Now I have a pot with simmering hot water. You can bring it to a boil, but you don't want to boil it with the wax. And just slowly, gradually let the wax do its thing. Make sure every once in a while that there's still water in the pot because you don't want it to burn. And you can use a stick or spatula to kind of move and help the wax slowly melt. Now, depending on how much wax you have, it'll take a fair bit of time because you want to do it slowly and properly. Now, in the meantime, we are going to get the wick on the stick. So I'm going to eyeball how much of the wick I need. I need a little bit to tie it to our washer or this little tin thingy. So a little longer because we have room for the knot, and a little bit of room for tying it to the stick to hold it in place. All right, now you want to tie a big enough knot on the bottom so it doesn't come through the washer hole. Feed the wick through the hole, and then we're going to place the washer in the middle. Now I have pulled the knot out and on the side of the washer to prevent it from wobbling so it stays in place. So what I'm going to do is place the stick in the middle, have the wick laying on top so it's staying in place, and then I'm going to tape the wick to the side of our jar to keep it sturdy and steady. All right, now we're going to repeat the same process for all of the jars using either the washer or the other washer. Now we just wait for the wax to melt and we pour them in our jars. Now, like I said in the beginning, we're gonna let the wax cool off just a little bit, not harden, obviously. And now would be the time if you wanted to add coloring or some scents with essential oils. I know that some people also like to put in dried flowers or seashells or rocks into their jars that they make their candles. Or if you want, you can pour the wax and then let it harden just a little bit, and then you can place flowers or other decorative items that you want. These candles are going to be unscented, uncolored, unfrilly things. So they're going to be a no frills candle because I like all of the jars individually. Plus you can't really see through. Like if you were to make it, let's say for instance, like a glass jar, you could add like the flowers against the glass and then gently pour the wax. That could be a nice thing. Like I said, these jars are just beautiful and unique as they are, and we don't need anything to add to them. Also, if you are making these for someone else, you do want to keep in mind that some people don't like scented candles. It might give them a headache or something. So just be mindful if you are gifting these to someone that the scented part is only for those who actually enjoy it. All right, I've tucked my hair behind my ears. The liquid has now cooled off just a little bit, and I'm going to pour it into our jars. And now we wait for the wax to harden. Depending on the size of your candle, it could be a couple of minutes with the tea light candles, and if it's a huge one with several wicks in it, it could take hours. I love how all of these turned out. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this inspires you to make candles for this season, maybe as a gift or for yourself. Let me know in the comments below if you do, and I'd love to hear all of your ideas on maybe you use dried flowers or maybe some scents and colors. And if you have any other suggestions on arts and crafts and gift ideas that you have you'd like me to try out, I'd love to hear from you. Hit that like button, it always helps me out. And remember to subscribe to the channel so you can find your way back for next week's video. Take care now.
Hello.
Hello. Just blank. What do I say?
Okay.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Looks like a silica beads. Happy.